Good morning. My name is Darren Francke. I'm the Director of the Major Crimes Division. With me is Captain Paul LaCourie. He's the Director of our Special Investigations Division. Lieutenant Ed Pallas, who's the Deputy Director of the Major Crimes Division. And Detective Dimitri Rubin, one of our homicide detectives with the Major Crimes Division. We're here today to talk about a homicide which was discovered on June 17th on West Side Drive. Montgomery County Police and Gaithersburg Police were called to the area, the wooded area there, the Malcolm King Park, for the report of a subject who was found in the woods deceased. That young man was an 18-year-old male. His name's Cristian Villagran-Morales. He was stabbed over 40 times. The subsequent investigation by our office, our Special Investigations Division, and the Gaithersburg Police Department identified first Vanessa Alvarado as being in contact with this young man, and that led to further identification of suspects. Today we're going to put out their information. This is a very serious case for us. I will tell you that in Montgomery County, every death is important to us. Every death gets investigated to its fullest, and detectives like Detective Rubin have spent countless hours tracking these dangerous criminals down. To let you know how this happened, Vanessa Alvarado lured Cristian to the area with the promise of sex. She did this because members of MS-13 decided that they wanted to kill Cristian. She lured him to the area. Once he was in the area, several gang members came up to them and told Cristian they wanted to go into the woods and smoke marijuana. And unfortunately, Cristian made the decision to go into the woods with them. He did not come out of those woods. We have arrested Vanessa Alvarado based on a warrant. We've also served search warrants. The investigation continued from there. And we also identified a young man by the name of Jose Ventura. He's age 20. We're going to be passing these out to you. He is currently wanted by the Montgomery County Police. He is on the run. We are also looking for Oscar Ernesto Delgado-Perez. He's age 27. He is also on the run. The last subject that we have actually arrested, I apologize, is a young man by the name of Guiterrez-Vasquez. That's his last name. We'll give you that information as well. He's in custody at the Montgomery County Detention Center. Both Miss Alvarado and Mr. Guiterrez-Vasquez, they're held on $1 million bond at 10% right now. Again, we're reaching out to the public in this case because these two individuals are extremely dangerous and they're on the run. They were last known to be in the Wheaton area. We believe they know we're looking for them, and we want to get them into custody as soon as possible so that they're no longer contributing to MS-13 mayhem, and they're no longer a problem for our community. Again, we'll be passing these out, this information out to you so you can have it. And do I have any questions?
Yeah, you said the motive. Obviously, this is gang related.
Yes.
What was Cristian's relationship to this MS-13, to these crew members? What was the problem? Was he a member of MS-13 and fell out? What was he doing?
He was not a member of MS-13. He was a young man. He's from the New Jersey area. His mom lives in New Jersey. He had come down here. He was working as a landscaper. He was living with some cousins. He'd really done nothing wrong. Unfortunately, he got involved with the wrong young lady.
How did they get involved?
It's just social acquaintance, and these individuals decided that they were going to assassinate him.
Did they want to assassinate him because one of the gang members was romantically involved with this woman? I mean, what beef did they have with the victim here?
I don't want to talk about that yet. That's part of the court case ongoing. But I will say it's absolutely senseless. Again, this young man was a hardworking young man, came down here for a job, and really did nothing wrong, just made some poor decisions about the people that he was associating with.
During your
the time of this homicide, the department also held a press conference to address the gang problem, citing that very young or underage immigrants were coming to the country illegally and then had no family to stay with, ended up getting wrapped up with gangs and really violent crimes. I noticed obviously one of these suspects is 16. Any reason to believe that these suspects are maybe linked to that issue that you talked about back in June?
I think the main thing we're looking at is that they're involved with gang activity. They're involved with MS-13, questionable life choices, and certainly MS-13, as we have documented now for many years, is a violent gang. You know, I'm sure they didn't wake up that day and just decide and jump to murder. They've done other things in their community, and we're always looking for help from the community to stop this cycle that goes on before it ends up in something like this.
Yes, clear on the victim's situation. You're saying he had absolutely no gang-related ties. His only connection to becoming a victim was going into the woods, believing that this young woman would engage in sex. Why did the gang members then target him? Did they believe he was connected with a gang? Was she being initiated into a gang?
She was not being initiated. As far as anything else on a motive, I can't speak to that. Again, all I can say is really this young man was a hardworking young man. Really, he just social acquaintances that he came up with and led to this encounter.
That's very scary for people to hear that this young man wasn't in a gang and somehow got in with these people. How can members of the public make sure that they don't wind up in a similar situation?
Well, I mean, certainly the community members, the families, the mothers, fathers, you have to monitor what your children are doing. In this case, again, he came down here. He's with his cousins that were watching after him as he was working hard. You just have to really be vigilant in who your children, who your relatives are associating with, and know who they're associating with. It's very difficult, again, in this day and age, because there's so many ways to reach out to people via social media and phones and just hanging out. But you have to be vigilant as parents, as family members, as friends.
So Montgomery County has had 10 murders in less than a year, after being very quiet for a long time. So things just don't happen because they happen. What do you attribute this spate of murders, all gang related, all involving teenage Central American youth? Do you think there's something, or is it just coincidence that all of a sudden you get 10 murders?
Well, actually, the better person to speak on gang activities would be Captain LaCourie, who's behind me, so I'll let him speak to that.
Good morning. I'm Captain Paul LaCourie. That's Liquorie. I'm the director of the Special Investigations Division. And to your question, first to clarify, not all 10 of the gang-related homicides that we speak about in the county are with MS-13. Just over half of those are. So again, we're seeing a lot of geopolitical factors. We know that things have changed dramatically over the last year in Central America, which is also leading to a lot of geopolitical factors down there. There's been an increased tensions between the government and the gangs down there, which is also leading to increased pressures on the American affiliates here in the United States to be able to produce more income for the gangs. We're also trying to see an influx of more weapons that are trying to go down there with their fight against the current, because of the collapse of the current truce. And that's also leading to our unaccompanied minors. And again, I want to be clear when we say that there's the influx of unaccompanied minors not only to the Washington region but to the nation as a whole is because of the violence that's occurring there. And most importantly, I want to point out that overwhelmingly the young youth that are coming here that are unaccompanied are not gang members. Okay, again, we're not saying that the people who are fleeing here are the unaccompanied minors are the gang members who are fleeing here. Quite the contrary, there's been a recent report that was published that was saying that they cannot substantiate that, but what we're saying is that the unaccompanied minors, because of all the challenges that they face here, both locally and nationally, are becoming susceptible to gang recruitment and are more likely to be the victim of gang violence more than anything else.
So how does killing somebody in a park further the aims of a gang, whether here or in El Salvador? Because I think that's what we're trying to figure out. How does...
I think, again, when we look at gang violence in general as a whole, that there are so many aspects to it. One is respect, retaliation, and reputation, not only of the individual, but now you're also representing the gang. And then we see that if one group is escalating in its violence, often another gang or another group has to also match that level of violence and becomes a secular type of event. We are working very diligently here as a police department, as a county, with wraparound services for everyone. We work with our partners in Health and Human Services at the Recreation Department to offer youth really good outlets so that they are not susceptible to the recruitment of gangs. So in Montgomery County, I think we're trying to take a very holistic approach so that we have these other options. But again, I think when someone steps up or says that that may further their own personal reputation, both either within the gang or the gang's reputation as a whole, you do sometimes see these senseless, what seems senseless to the rest of us, acts of violence.
How big is MS-13 in Montgomery County right now? Do you have a rough head count of how many members you think there are?
It's a very difficult thing to say, okay, because as you can see, these two young men who are responsible for this crime and we believe have fled. So are they in Montgomery County now, or are they gang members? So again, our gang member, it's not something we can keep an accurate count on, and we've stopped trying to do that. And again, someone who stopped here doesn't necessarily live here, so it's a very hard thing to try and keep track of statistically.
You guys, in 2005, hypothetically, had 2 people as part of a gang task force, and now have 20. I mean, how's the police department fluctuated in staff?
So the county council just recently in their budget was very generous to the police department. They recognize that this is still an emerging problem, and they gave us 2 new gang investigators in their current budget cycle. I don't want to get into the exact number, but our number of gang investigators solely dedicated to gangs, and again, it's not just limited to MS-13. We also have local crews and other national linked gangs here in the county and regionally. So we've increased the size of our unit in the Special Investigations Division, and we've also increased our training throughout the department for that.
One more question. The 4 suspects in this case, are they American citizens? Do they all come from foreign countries? And if so, which ones?
I'm not aware of their status. I can't answer that
Are
question.
you afraid that these 2 could flee? Like they have a passport and could jump out of town?
One of the difficulties we've had, we've found several names linked with these individuals. That's why the picture becomes very important. They have used aliases in the past. They have any number of means to flee, whether it be fleeing down to Virginia, down to Florida, down to any. They could go anywhere to avoid these charges and try and seep into a community and go without detection. So the important part here is the pictures of these young men and some variation of their name that they're using.
2 more questions.
Not too long ago, you busted a safe house. You busted a safe house where there were gang members from other states that were kind of hiding out here. Do you know whether this victim may have been doing the same thing, and even if he was not involved in gang activity here, do you know if he was involved in gang activity in New Jersey?
He was not.
He was not.
1 more. Scott.
Yeah, you just mentioned this word cycle. We also talked about geopolitical realities, and that these U.S.-based affiliates are somehow important to what's going on down there. Can you help characterize for us how the activities of a bunch of 16, 17, and 19-year-olds have anything to do with what's going on in El Salvador? You said maybe send in money, How important is what these little affiliates in I shouldn't use the word little. How important is what the affiliates in Montgomery County, Fairfax County, doing to what's going on back there?
So to answer that question, how are the local gangs supporting the gangs back in Central America? Again, with these young teenagers, they're starting at a more junior level within any organization. So whatever they do, if you look in a hierarchy structure or organization, whatever they're doing to help further the gangs, either be it through extortion of legitimate businesses or illegitimate businesses, human trafficking, distribution of narcotics, firearms running, whatever they do to help facilitate that, which helps earn money, which then is then funneled back into Central America for the furtherance of the heads of the gang or the hierarchy down in Central America. It all plays a role. So you may have a small hand-to-hand or street-level dealing of narcotics or marijuana or whatever the case might be. But again, that's a small piece of the pie collectively that goes back to the hierarchy of the gang in Central America and helps feed those organizations.
Thank you all.
Oh, one clarification. I was a little too hard on, he was not. To best of our knowledge, he was not involved in any gang activity in New Jersey.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for coming out. This is very serious to us. We want the residents of this county to know that it doesn't matter who you are, what you do. We take murder seriously. It will not be accepted in Montgomery County, and all the assets you see here today for this case will be brought to every case. So thank you for coming.